feel every breath, you feel every blink. I don't see him. I don't see Ranveer. For me, he's Hamza and Jaskirat. He lived it.
Here's to Vikash Nowlakha, the eye, the instinct, and the soul behind Dhurandhar. You told him apparently that I've waited 30 years to do a film like this. I'll give my life to it. Why did you say that?
It's very rare to actually have a script that comes along that feels like raw and gritty, just reading the script, and that's the kind of work I love to do.
When he says emotional intelligence behind the lens, what do you think he means by that?
You know, the thing is, as technicians, we all can hide behind our craft. But as actors, you're cutting your heart out, you're putting it out there. If the camera doesn't see what they're going through, it's a grave injustice to them.
You guys shot in a lot of outdoors.
There's a script that's split across more than locations.
And you're creating a new world.
I'm just, as a cinematographer, putting a rectangle around everyone else's work.
Was it a lot of handheld cameras that you used, or like what exactly was the process of that?
For me, the most immersive way of shooting is actually to be, it's always a performance that dictates what I do. And I'm completely led by characters and the actors.
What's the importance of lenses?
My tools were very restricted. This particular set of lenses that I used I've actually rejected on other movies.
How much of natural lighting were you using, and how important is it for you to make it look as real as possible?
For me, light has to feel natural. You know, if I feel the light, it really kind of pulls me out of a story.
Surfing or cinematography? What is your preference?
Wow. Hi, this is Vikash Nowlakha, and you're watching Memorable Conversations with Faridoon Shahryar.
Here's to Vikash Nowlakha, the eye, the instinct, and the soul behind Dhurandhar. He was the last HOD to come on board Dhurandhar just a few days before we began, and knowing how deeply selective he is, that timing meant everything. It felt less like onboarding a cinematographer and more like destiny quietly stepping in at the right moment. I still remember what he said after reading the script. I have waited 30 years to do a film like this. I will give my life to it. So this is what Aditya Dhar wrote about you on Twitter. So you told him apparently that I've waited 30 years to do a film like this. I'll give my life to it. Why did you say that?
Yeah, I think, as a cinematographer, you're always, well, firstly, you're serving the story, right? And, every once in a while, it's very rare to actually have a script that comes along that feels like, okay, this is really something that I can, that really feels like I can resonate with. The visual world that it called for, felt raw and gritty just reading the script. And that's the kind of work I love to do. And I felt like I was a little restrained in all the earlier films that I had done.
Right.
There were films that I had to show a lot of restraint and tell the story and almost kind of be invisible. I believed in those stories, but I think with Rocket Singh as well as Lapata, I felt like
Right.
I wanted to be a bit invisible. And this was a film where, in a commercial context, you could bring some rawness to it, you could bring some grit to it, and those are the things that I'm naturally kind of gravitated towards aesthetically.
Right. Uh, People are still not talking enough about the technical brilliance of Dhurandhar. I think people will, once this does settle down on this humongous box office records that it is making as of now, and the impact. But technically, I think it's an absolutely brilliant film. Do you think this film can do India proud at the level of Oscars?
Oh, I don't know about all that. You know, we just do what we do, and I think then the audience, makes it a hit, right? It's really out of our control. We try our best, we do our thing, but things like Oscars and award shows and all of that, it's really kind of stuff that I don't really concern myself with.
Okay, and Aditya has said after this that, and he meant every word. It's talking about you. What followed was not just work; it was devotion. Through impossible schedules, through chaos that often felt unmanageable, through shooting what was essentially two films in the time and cost of one, Vikash stood at the center of it all, steady and relentless. 8 hour long film, and you have to be there for every frame.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the script is what it is. There was a lot on the page, and we had to get it done. And you're hired for that job.
Right. Okay, but see, from whatever we understand, as far as you are concerned, you are in Bali right now. You love surfing, from whatever I understand, and you have hobbies, which definitely you're very very passionate about. Um, I'm sure that cinematography is much more than just a source of making money for you. By the time this film got over, what was that that feeling within you once it got over? Were you missing it?
Well, yeah. I mean, every day. I mean, I think for me as a person, uh, people ask me what I'm doing now, and I said, I'm back to being alone with the gods. And for me, that's just being in nature and the ocean, and it's quite like an isolated kind of life. And
Mm.
my film work is actually where I really live. That's my social life. That's where I interact with people. That's where you actually try and kind of do something. It's kind of like you just kind of find a balance, right? I kind of live my life very simply. On one side, you learn, which is in nature, and then you come into the city and you give. So that's the kind of balance that I try and work with, which is why I've also done very few projects. I feel like it's really like fill the teacup, empty the teacup. You know, it's give and take, you know, and that's how you find a balance with your own life.
You're also a fantastic ad filmmaker, so I'm sure that that must be um, getting you a lot of money so that you can chill the way you want to for sure. You've shot some really really amazing works internationally as well.
Yeah, I mean, even with that, I think, I mean, I was always a bit restrained in the amount of work that I did. Also, because I feel like I didn't really kind of come from a very technical background. I can't apply myself to everything that comes my way and make it amazing, like a lot of cinematographers could do. I just don't have that latitude. There are very few projects that I feel like I can resonate with, that I can bring myself to. And so I've been kind of really restrictive, in that sense. I feel if I don't feel it, I'll do a very below mediocre job with it. So I really, I feel like I need to resonate with it at some level. So yeah, I mean, you kind of live your life like that, right? I mean, you keep your life simple. I kind of live out of a bag, and you just kind of hop from one place to another, and you kind of feel like, yeah, it's interesting, because also working in different countries across different cultures, it's constantly washing your eyes, so you kind of get to question what beautiful is from a different lens every time, depending on the culture you're in. And it kind of opens you up a little laterally in that respect. So I enjoy that. Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. Okay, so let's talk about the process of Duranda, for example. How were you approached? Who approached you? Did Aditya approach you directly, or someone from the team approach you?
Yeah, it was the associate director that first kind of gave me a call, and then I had a chat with him and Aditya. I was in Bali at the time, and they were like,
Mm.
"Oh, come in for a 4-day kind of meeting, because we had an action director coming in as well, and we do the narration together." So I didn't even take the fins off my surfboard. I just I said, "Okay, I'll be back in 4 days," and you know, hit the ground running. It just synced up perfectly, and yeah, it was just really kind of ripe. It felt really good.
So they narrated the script to you first. Who Aditya narrated himself?
Yeah, so I mean, they gave me a gist of what it was,
Mm.
while I was still here, and then once I flew in, there was a cast and crew narration, which owed just very eloquently carried out. It was incredible, actually. They had a visual representation of what they'd like to do, and narrated the whole thing for cast and crew, which was absolutely absolutely phenomenal. They'd put a lot of work into that.
Yeah, I'm sure that the planning part is definitely amazing to shoot a film like this and say 160 to maybe 180 days is definitely not easy. It's absolutely incredible. Um, okay, you guys shot in a lot of it in Bangkok, for example. How crucial was the production designer and your work, like in terms of the collaboration between you and the production designer? Because I believe a lot of the way the movie has been shot is outdoors,
That's right.
and you're creating a new world.
That's right. I mean, one of the biggest challenges was, it was a script that split across more than 120 locations. We
Mm,
had a space in Bangkok that we shot, not an enormous amount of time, but a little section in. I mean, of course, I kind of, sometimes I jokingly tell, my cast and my crew, I said, listen, I'm just, as a cinematographer, putting a rectangle around everyone else's work, you know. It's really like what's in
mm.
front of me, that I kind of embrace. So, yeah, I think with all my work, like art and my relationship with a production designer is critical. I mean, it's really like what you see, and then then you try and kind of work across different locations to kind of make it similar and make it all believable as the one space. So Bangkok gave us the opportunity of having a space to work in. You know, which was without a population, and we could do our thing. There was actually a space that was going to be raised, so they could build a mall. So they let us do our thing.
That's amazing. You know, a lot of women they're thanking you because the way you shot Akshay Khanna, especially in the Fasla song, when he smiles and he breaks into the dance, for example, on the Fliperachi song. It's crazily it's gone crazily viral, and he's looked so handsome, Akshay Khanna.
Oh, that's got nothing to do with me. That's just him. It's like I said. I
I
just
think that
I just put a rectangle around what's in front of me. So if an actor brings it, it's my duty to kind of get that across. Right, that's my responsibility. So yeah, I'm just a vehicle
right.
between what's happening and the viewer.
Right. So the action sequences, I think this movie has incredible action sequences, and many of them they have been imagined very very differently as well. Um, Now, how do you respond to the way the action has been and the way you have shot it is very very grungy as well. Was it a lot of handheld cameras that you use, or like what exactly was the process over there?
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, I feel for me the most immersive way of shooting is actually to be handheld, even for dramatic scenes, because I can make quick adjustments with whatever's happening. It's always a performance that dictates what I do, right? And I'm completely led by characters and the actors in front of me. Their performance will inform what happens. Like you can previs all you like, but there's a sense where I feel like pre-visualization kind of belongs to the past. It's an amalgamation of everything you might have seen and have impressed you, and you've kind of put it all together. It's actually when things, and there are a lot of moving pieces, in a film like this, and it's actually when things really don't go to plan that the universe kind of slips inside and makes it a real event. So what you're trying to do is actually work with the chaos that's actually happening, and it becomes a real event. Like at that moment, your mind, your body feels that that's real, and you immerse yourself completely into it, and you just go and get it. And you want the flexibility, you want to be able to move and do things as they're happening. So really, what you see as and you believe as a real event is because it's set up like a real event. So, so there are lots of it's in the chaos that you try and find it. So Obviously, like if I'm close to an actor, then I can go handheld. If they're very far away, then I'll have to, operate a zoom lens. So it was really just that. Like, my tools were very restricted. I actually just had, four working lenses, four focal lengths, two of which, I mean, the lenses I chose, two of which were, you know, not really workable. They're really like an old, messed up set. But two of them worked, and it was a two camera setup all the time. So your tools were limited, and you restrict yourself, and
Right.
yeah, that you kind of go for it within that. So
Okay, what's the importance of lenses, like, and that intuition that you need this particular lens for this particular scene? Importance of intuition as well.
actually, this particular set of lenses that I use were I've actually rejected on other movies, because if you actually put it up on a lens projector, you'll see like some of the edges are soft, or they're a little off. So it's very risky to kind of use. But I felt like with this film, it would help us. And also with the VFX, it would really kind of help us. So it's opposite to what you would think logically, like, oh, we're going VFX, so let's go super sharp. It's actually, I feel like, the opposite. So if I use lenses that have imperfections, that gets layered onto the VFX as well. And now that becomes more believable. It feels less like a video game and more amalgamated into it. Your considerations are
Right.
also the aspect ratio that you shoot in, based on the locations you have, your depth of field. So now trying to sell the same location across different locations and countries, throwing things a little out of focus in the background, having shallow depth of field really helps you sell it. So those were all decisions that we kind of took, and yeah, and that's why I chose this particular set of lenses. But like I said, you're restricted. I had a two camera setup all the time and two working lenses. So yeah, you restrict
Mm.
yourself, and you kind of work within that window.
Okay, lighting. How much of natural lighting were you using, and how important is it for you to make it as look as real as possible?
Oh, it's everything for me. I mean, if like for me, light has to feel natural. It really kind of pulls me out of a story. If I feel the light, so I know that it's been lit. It really it pulls me out. I think that's an approach that also kind of came from advertising. Because in advertising
Hmm.
we keep kind of changing our styles all the time. We try and be relevant, and you come to that point where you don't want to see the salesman at the door. You know, and for me it was always that metaphor. If I saw the light, I saw the salesman at the door. you know.
Mm.
And you try and bring that same approach to film. You just say, "Oh, I just wanted to feel like people need to believe this, right?" And it was the same on Lapata Ladies also, but in a very different way.
Right.
But it's important for me, you know, for audiences to feel immersed in the story, and a lot of that is maybe not being aware of the technical aspects of it. So if people aren't talking about the technical aspects of the film, like you mentioned before,
Hmm.
I think it's a fantastic thing, you know, because then you're now in the
Because they
story. Yes,
they're natural.
you don't see the hand. It's very important not to see the hand.
That's beautifully said. What you're saying is absolutely brilliant, actually. Okay, and what is the importance of grading?
I mean, reading is really where, you kind of really put it all together. For us, it was really not kind of trying to go overboard with it, but again, kind of restrict it within a particular window. You kind
Hmm.
of push yourselves within that window. You don't go overboard with it, right? And it's the same approach with light. You want it to be believable. You don't want it to look, overly pushed, because then again, you see the hand. And I think
Correct.
as a colorist, your mastery is working within the window and then kind of making it work, you know?
That's amazingly said. Okay, and Do you believe in storyboarding? Is that important for you?
Well, I think for some sequences, for sure, especially when it requires coordination with a lot of different departments, just for people to understand what you're
Mm,
after. You could chuck it all out on the day, but if it's stuff that involves rigging or heavy construction, or just really kind of detailed kind of technical kind of bits that need to be kind of work for it, then it's very
mhm.
helpful. But like I said, like on the day, the universe has its own way of gently kind of slipping in, and doing its own thing, and I love that because then you know it becomes a real moment.
Okay, so what sort of a camera guy are you? Are you like a Red guy or like a Panasonic guy or like a Sony guy or doesn't really matter?
No, no, for me it's always been largely the Alexa, and
Mm.
I've come from you know the film days, right, and Ari was always our go-to. And the way it kind of works, it's like when you're writing a story, you don't want to be thinking about the
Mm.
pen,
Mm.
you know, and the Ari cameras are like that. They're so simple, right? It's like using an iPhone. You don't have to think about the pen. You can just write. And I like cameras that don't call for attention, right? And that's why I choose Ari every time. Yeah, yeah. There's a simplicity to it. There's a naturalness to it. There's the way it deals with highlights, the shadow detail you have on it. It's actually it feels closest to me, to what the eye sees.
Okay, so I'll also take a few more things what Aditya has said about you. His eye for detail, his emotional intelligence behind the lens, his ability to understand not just what a scene looks like but what it feels like that is where his genius lies. So before moving further, I just want to understand when he says emotional intelligence behind the lens, what do you think he means by that? That's a very good statement.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, I'm so touched with him, saying all that. But yeah, I mean, my approach is very. It's not really like a technical approach, you know. I didn't come from, I didn't enter from the technical side. I never really like
Right.
went to film school and never really wanted to become a cinematographer. I studied philosophy in university, and
Tasmania University, I believe.
that's right, University of Tasmania, yes, in Australia.
Yeah.
I did a dual major in
Mm.
philosophy and economics, and some people say, "Oh yeah, why do you work in film?" It's so different. But I'm like, for me, aesthetic is really a question of value,
Wow.
which is really philosophy. When you come down to it, storytelling is the most fundamental philosophy. That's where we learn about the world. That's what every religion uses to communicate stories. You look at any religious text,
Wow.
it's always stories. And so for me, film has
Wow.
always been deeply philosophical. And, you approach it like less technical and more, from the heart, right? And like I told you, I'm completely led by actors and performances, you know. Like I feel if an actor is kind of really like the thing is as technicians we all can hide behind our craft, but as actors you're cutting your heart out, you're putting it out there, and now you know it's free for everyone to look at, criticize and judge, right? and if
Right.
and if they're going deep with it, you feel this incredible, it's like it's you have to kind of make the camera feel that, right? If the camera doesn't see what they're going through, it's a grave injustice to them, so
Right.
I'm emotionally driven, and I'm emotionally driven because of performances. So you just want to kind of translate what they're feeling onto what the camera sees. And if I don't do that, I haven't done my job, and I'm doing a great disservice to them. So I'm really led emotionally with my shooting. So if I don't feel it, I do a really bad job, which is why I also restrict my projects. I can't go into everything and make it amazing. I need to really feel it. And with this one, I think, all of the, you know, all of the characters we had, and I won't call them actors because I kind of feel that when they're on set, it's so real. Like it's so, they're in it, they're all feeling it. And then it's just, you just run with it. I know we're using a world of make believe to create real feelings. But at that moment, it's everything for me. It's my life, you know.
That's beautiful. That's beautifully said. Okay, so what Aditya also says that every frame in Dhurandhar breathes because he allowed it to. He didn't just capture moments, he gave them life. His inputs on set were never loud, but always precise, always truthful, always elevating the film. There are many who shoot films. Vikash lived this one. And in doing so, he has given Dhurandhar something that cannot be manufactured, a soul. Deep words. You've given soul to Dhurandhar. You're the soul of Dhurandhar.
That's very kind of Aditya to say that. But yeah, I mean, it's all of us, right? I mean, like I said, I can only put a rectangle around what's happening in front of me. If the actors don't bring
Mm,
it, I can't create it, right?
mm,
So it's just, I mean, like I say, it's like a dance, right? You just have to be active in there and get it, see what's happening, respond to what's happening, be present, and really feel it out. And so you're just responding to what's happening, you know. Everything else doesn't matter. Your light, your technique, your those numbers don't matter. I need to get what's in front of me, and and feel that, you know, and that's it.
right. And what do you think of Ranveer Singh's performance? He has two sides to him. One is Jaskirat and the other is Hamza. Like one is beefed up, the other one is like lean and very vulnerable as well. How do you rate his performance?
Wow, it's not for me to really judge, but for me, I didn't see him. I don't see Ranveer, right? Like for me, he's Hamza and just Kirat. He lived it, you know. I mean, so I'm really close to him when I operate, you feel every breath, you feel every blink, you know, every kind of
Hmm.
look, every movement in his eyes, especially when he kind of you know, plays it
Right.
soft. And it just, I mean, it goes right through you, he really brought it. It was incredible to witness. He really kind of went all out. He really put his heart out there. Yeah, absolutely, like adore him for that. Just he really went deep with it. He wasn't performing; he was being it.
That's brilliant. And you've seen some really wonderful performances yourself, so that means a lot. Okay, what about the action sequences? There are many action sequences, and um, they're very complex action sequences involving a lot of at times ammunition. A lot of them at times it's just someone shooting someone and falling on a cycle, for example. M- a wide variety of action sequences. One that is there in the beginning of Durandar the Revenge, where Ranveer shoots down the entire family and all at the house. That that's so real in terms of because he's moving from one room to another. uh, how was like to shoot action like that?
No, it's like sports day every day. It's super fun.
Sports day, right?
Yeah, you just chuck it on your shoulder, go get it. It's tons of fun. I love
Mhm.
it. Yeah.
Any memories that you have? Anything that really would stay with you?
Oh, I mean, everything. It was just, yeah, it was just. I mean, it was literally like playing a game of football. It's fantastic, and when
Mm.
everyone's kind of kicking around and it's teamwork from everywhere. Aditya was really involved with the action, like was really involved with the action. Fantastic action directors, just incredible. And our cast trained for it, prepped for it. They really brought it, you know. Then you're just playing along. You're like, okay, let's do it. Yeah, so just really good fun.
When did you see the final cut of the film? Did you also see it on the edit table as well?
Yeah, so before I start grading, my colorist and I like to watch the film, so we're usually the first ones to kind of get a peek into it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's like, sound and everything kind of happens simultaneously, and it's not the finished thing, and there will be versions of it. But, just
Right.
even, watching it with, unfinished music and sound and everything, it really resonated. It really felt the emotional beats in it. Yeah, that was, yeah, it was incredible. They did an incredible
Incredible.
job on post, and yeah, and do you know how music is? It's just like I felt that sometimes, like even on Lapata, where it's like you might take a shot and it's super mundane, but then you have one note on a piano, and it just raises it to being profound.
Right. What's your favorite song from both the parts, part one and part two?
Oh, I don't really like have a favorite song and such. Just I just yeah, just embrace it as it is. Don't have favorites.
But still, I think if you have to take maybe one or two or three.
No, I wouldn't like to do that.
Okay, no, no worries. No worries. Okay, so Aditya ended by saying that I feel immense gratitude, respect, and affection for the artist he is and the human being he brought into this journey. This film carries his imprint forever, and I know this is only the beginning. The stories we will tell together from here on will go even further, shine even brighter, and create something truly timeless. So he has immense gratitude for you and respect for you, and he would like to work with you in the future as well.
And likewise, I mean, I think it's actually really rare these days, to come across a director who's so I know egoistic, you know,
Mm.
and I think that's what defines a really good leader. He pushes us all to be the best versions of ourselves. With this, I say he
Absolutely.
really like let me off the leash. He really let me go. And it's fantastic to work like that because you're not just hiring a technician. Then you're hiring
Mm.
me completely because now I'm not in that position where I'm trying to second guess what someone will like, right? Now I can come into it with my instinct, with my spirit, with my soul, with all of that. I don't just come in as a cinematographer. And he
Right.
gave us all that freedom, you know? And at the same time, he's got his eye on the bigger picture and he shapes it and he moves it and he understands what works. And it's a beautiful balance of how he's got control and at the same time he kind of really lets you really go. Like I say, it's literally like I call it like just being off the leash. He really lets you run with it, and that's incredible. That's how I work best as well. you know so it's a really fantastic relationship, and one I treasure, and one I mutually highly respect him for as well. I mean, his humility, his leadership is absolutely commendable. He just his presence on set, his demeanor. He's absolutely an incredible human being. To start off with,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
and you can see it in the way he kind of lets you run with it. And all of us, I would say, not just me, but every HOT, every actor, So now you can really bring your instinct into things. And that's what gives you the live moment, because everyone's working from a space of instinct. Everyone's working from a space that's authentic to themselves. You're not second guessing
Right.
somebody else, right? And that's why if you say, oh, it feels authentic or any of those adjectives, it's because he lets that space breathe. And that's why I kind of value, this film and that relationship so much.
That's brilliant. Okay. And what do you think is going to be the impact of AI as far as cinematography is concerned?
That's a question everyone's asking, right? I mean, it's only a matter of time before AI gets, good enough to use. But it's like it's like, you know, I think one also, I mean, everything, technology keeps changing, right? And you can't stop it, right? You can't, so there's a portion of you that feels like, oh, is AI just gonna, there's something unethical about AI in terms of the way you can just say, I want so and so's kind of style, right? And that person has spent a lifetime developing that style. And now it just kind of, AI just has it, right? And it's like, oh, give me something in
Mm,
Nolan's style or this one's style. And you're stealing from that person in a sense, right? So there is a huge ethical question about AI and how you use that. But at the same time, like
right.
every bit of technology, it's how you use it, right? You could use it for previs, you could use it for background extension. It really depends on how you use it, right? So yeah, I mean, at the same time, I feel like you know you can't stop it. So you kind of have to learn it as well and kind of see how it can help you. You can't turn a blind eye to it and become a dinosaur, right?
Correct.
It's like you have to kind of see what's going on and see how you can use it in an ethical way, in a way that you know can help, maybe with previs, maybe with extensions, those kind of things. But I think there's a you know there's a question of ethics that comes up with it that we also need to kind of address.
Right. Okay. Which is your all-time favorite film, Hollywood film, in terms of cinematography?
Oh God, there's there isn't one, and yeah,
Mm.
you know, I,
You can give multiple answers if you want to.
no, I mean it's there's little things that you can find and learn and like from everything, good and bad. So yeah, I won't restrict myself to that. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, you also a filmmaker. When you work with the likes of Aditya, for example, or Kiran in Lapata Ladies, or Shimit Amin in Rocket Singh. Now, Rocket Singh is one film that has stood the test of time. It's a very very watchable film even today, which is always a very good sign for any film whatsoever. What is your personal growth like when you interact with such filmmakers and you're working closely with them?
Well, with like human relationships, right? Like it's never the same dance, right? It's a different dance with every single different director. You know, I think the one thing that they all have in common is I think they're all absolutely wonderful people, each incredibly brilliant in their own right, and there's so much to kind of learn from each of them. There's
Right,
each of them in their own way have a graciousness of being. The way they operate, the way they deal with other people. And sometimes that is sometimes I say the films they come and go, but the way you touch people that stays forever. And yeah, I'd like to say that that's been the common thread with all three of them. They've all been incredible human beings.
brilliant. Okay, and if you have to sum up Dhurandhar, maybe in a sentence or a word, how will you sum up Dhurandhar?
Oh, why would I want to do that? No. No, I don't want to sum it up in a word.
Okay. So you do surfing or skateboarding? What exactly do you do?
I mean, yeah, like I've been skateboarding since I was 7. But yeah, I think I'm kind of like
Skateboarding.
still the same, since I was a kid. Now I surf. I've been surfing for about the last 20 years or so. And it's my
Mm,
balance. It teaches you so much. Being in the ocean, being in an element that's so much more powerful than you. It humbles you. It teaches you so much about yourself every single time. It empowers you. It dials you into the natural world. You get linked into weather and seasons and tides and wind and moon cycles and weather patterns shifting and winds shifting, and
mm,
I bring that back into my work, because our work is really working with nature a lot of times, and what's
of
happening.
course.
So yeah, you see when the wind is shifting and when the clouds are moving, and you know yeah, so it kind of it hardwires you into the planetary kind of system, because you're working with a natural force, and that's what you're flying around the world for, right? To kind of link with the natural force. So yeah, it keeps you really
Amazing.
grounded, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see that you have these bulky and brilliant shoulders and everything. So you do some sort of physical exercise as well. You gym. You
Yeah, I
get
say
into gymming and everything as well.
it's the manual labor I do for all these directors.
Yeah, that's
that's
what. Yeah,
that's most of
that's what.
it.
Yeah, I think.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I should handheld. I mean, handheld is
Mm,
my go-to. Like I
mm,
find it. Like I don't know. Like when I'm not holding a camera, like I feel like I'm not participating. So that's my go-to kind of style. So you kind of have to keep yourself fit for it. I've had issues in the past with my back and this and that. So you have to kind of train to keep yourself fit so you can continue doing
mm,
things the way you'd like to continue doing them, right? So I'm 50 now, and I'm like, oh, if I'm not, if I don't really, you know, keep myself fit, then it's going to restrict how I can shoot, and it's a very demanding job physically, as you know, like a cinematographer on set, you're
of course, of
present
course.
all the time. You're either lighting or you're shooting. You're on all the time, and the ergonomics of it, you put yourself in sometimes terrible
Mm,
positions. Leaning over a camera, the imbalances. My whole thoracic spine is tilted to the side of my viewfinder. It impacts, a lot of your alignment. So there's a yin and a yang with your training as well. So my yin is more, there's yoga and alignment that you have from that, and recovery things that you need to do, and then you also need to train yourself, to be able to continue doing what you do, because a lot of times, especially on digital, you can just keep rolling, right? So you have to stay fit for that. You
mm,
could be in an awkward position and you feel like, oh, I need to push in, but I'm like 2 feet off the ground and I'm in this compromised position, but I have to do it for the shot. And then you're impacting your body. So if your body is your vehicle, and that's the way you need to kind of move and adapt. I can't do it any other way. Like, if it's on a dolly, I can't be like, oh, he looked lower, go down 2 inches. By the time I say that, I've lost the moment. The only way I can kind
I
of get it
can
is
relate.
if I'm right there. And sometimes you need to be very stable. Sometimes you need to kind of, adjust. So you need to kind of work on, keeping your core strong and, you know, yeah, just things like that, right? So you can kind of keep working. Yeah, you know.
That's amazing. Okay, one last question, and that is like a rapid fire question, and I'm putting you on the spot. I'm saying it in fun, actually. Okay, I'm saying it in jest, but I would want you to pick one: surfing or cinematography. What is your favorite passion? If you have to choose one.
Wow. Definitely surfing. It's,
We are saying it in fun, but yeah, I think is a hobby is a passion that really motivate. to look forward to doing what you do so amazingly well, and people value that
Well, that's a
all across the
dance.
world.
That's
So
the dance of life, isn't it? It's like, you're dancing with
right,
life when you surf. If you can't do
right.
that first, and link with, the basic energy, then what are you going to do with your cinematography? I mean, for me personally, right? I need to have a story to
Mm.
tell before I can do it, right? So you need to live, I'd say, before you can tell a story.
Do you write?
I do, yes. I've kind of always written,
Mm.
yeah.
I can see that. So do you journal, or do you plan to come up with a book at some stage?
Well, I think when I was younger, it was more prose, and university magazines, things like that. Education has really been really important for me. So actually, I started off my journey, as a teacher, doing environmental kind of education with kids and making my own
Mm.
programs. And then the journey to film happened consequently because it was an extension of communication. So communication has always remained really important for me. Just write for university magazines and so on. But I guess, yeah, lately it's just been more, just thoughts, ideas. It takes me a long time to write. It's yeah. So you do it when you
No,
can.
but you're clearly a writer, because the way you talk, the way you explain things, one can visualize whatever you are saying, which is always one very important aspect as far as the writer is concerned. So Vikash, I understand that you have your date with surfing. We will not hold you back. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Truly, it's a privilege, an honor to talk to you. Loved your work in Durandar, and all the best wishes for all your future ventures. Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to reach out. And yeah, the tide is dropping. So